Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers. This is Module 5 for Andy 150, and we are going to be blocking out our modular pieces for our Sci Fi Hallway. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we need to do is make sure that in our preferences that we check in settings to make sure we are in working units to be centimeter this time. We do not want it to be foot. That's really important. Centimeter. Okay? Let's go ahead and click on Save. Again, you can get to the preferences by going to Windows, Settings, Preferences, and Preferences, and that'll take you to the same spot. Alright, so great. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Display. I'm going to show you something new. We're going to change the display grid. So I'm going to go to Grid, and we're going to click on the option box there. We can go to Edit and Reset Settings, and then I'm going to go in here and type in 20 for units. Okay. And then I'm going to scroll down and make sure I put perspective grid numbers on axes, on both axes, on orthographic and perspective, and click Apply and Close. Alright, so you can see that our grid got a little bit bigger, and it also has markings 0, 5, 10, and 15. With that done, then we will go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our modular pieces, and you got to read a little bit more about modular design and how that's so important. Most games, if not all games, are using modular design now. We just don't want to take that much time into creating singular assets, except for just assets that you need to go ahead and set dress your scene. But walls and buildings and stuff like that, and catwalks and all that kind of stuff are things that you need to build modularly. Great benefits to that, as you guys know. It's a lot more efficient, and you can do a lot more stuff, and you can change a lot more things. Now we're going to do basically start with a wide brush, or a broad brush I should say. Start with a broad brush, and then we're going to break everything up. Okay, so the idea, you have to have a good idea of what you want to do, find a reference that you would like to use. So we'll go ahead and get that. Alright, so let's go ahead and go into the front view and go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. Again, this is just a reference that you guys can download that I have up there. This is something I found online. I couldn't figure out whose picture this image is, so please do not use it and say it's yours. We're just going to use it just as a reference. We're going to make changes to it, but found this drawing. It's actually really well done. Go ahead and click Open. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and place this up. Like I said, I'm not going to look at it right on. And you can see that we have it in our texture space here, or its perspective. Let's move it out of the way so it doesn't get in the way. And so we can see this and look at this. And this is just loosely, we're going to just kind of have something as a reference. Doesn't mean I'm going to go exactly by it, because I'm going to give you, you guys have to follow the structure, but then I'm going to let you do whatever you'd like to do after we got the structure. Give you artistic freedom, but you need to keep the structure so I know this is your work and nobody else's. And let's go in here and let's go ahead and get started. We're in perspective, and I want you to make sure that the Z is facing towards you so you're not getting mixed up. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and place this background image in a layer. Let's just call that PG background, and click on that and just make sure that is templated or referenced so we don't select it again. Alright, so, and I think I think that's a good size. I think that's pretty good. Alright, so there's our grid. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and the next thing, once we have our reference, and again this is just a loose reference, I already know what I'd like to do, but just to kind of give you an idea how wide we're going to make it and all that stuff. Let's go ahead and get started. And we have a lot of artistic freedom after I have the structure completed. After we get the structure completed, you have a lot of artistic freedom then at that point to make it yours. Okay? Alright, so we're going to get the structure, the block out, and we'll get started here. Okay, so start with a cube. And again, let's go ahead and go to, make sure you're in the channel editor, do Control A. And in the channel editor, I want you to highlight the top one and just kind of hold your left mouse button down as you go across all of them. And just hit 8. There we go. And so now that we got units, and we're going to think of this as feet. So I've got my grid snap is on, so you can see up here I got grid snap is on, and so I just moved it up. Alright, so we're going to make a 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot section on the grid. Okay, and facing this way. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take this face off, facing the X, and then facing the Z, and then facing the other X, which is plus, which would be negative, and that would be positive. So we would take those three off again, and I hit the delete key. Alright, so this is what we got. And the open end is facing the Z if you look down in the corner. Okay. Alright, so that's important, because when I go into the side view, it looks like it's from the side view, and your front view should look like the front view. Okay, and then you have the top. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and select the object, and we're going to hold down the space bar, go to mesh display, and go to reverse. Okay, and that will reverse the normals. I don't care about the back on the top. We're never going to see that. Remember, this is an interior scene, so anything on the outside you'll never see. Alright, so keep that in mind. And we have our grid. And we want to have our grid snap on this time. Normally I don't do that, but this time I will. I am going to double click on my rotational value. Just double click on it, and that will open up the tool settings. And I'm going to go in here to step snap relative, and we're going to just do 45. And you can change that to any degrees that you'd like, but I'm going to do 45. It's easy to rotate. And just click off. So when I rotate this, it'll be easy to rotate. So I don't have to keep going in here and making changes. Alright, so basically we set up an 8 by 8. So the idea about one of the biggest things is scale. Okay, Unreal has a strange scale, and I'm setting this up to where we can scale this easily after we're all completed, but right now I'm going to keep it in centimeters, so it'll be easier for us to work and then scale up later. The idea now is that we've got one section, and we're going to break this up. Once we get everything exactly the way we want it, then we're going to break this up. Okay, now this is the structure part. This is the part that you don't have any artistic license over just yet. You're going to follow exactly what I want you to do right now, and then after you get the pieces that I want done, then you guys can go in there. It's kind of like the crate where the structure is there. Now you go and make it your own by adding your own details to it, and I am open to that. There are so many modular pieces that you have to create. We're going to create 8 altogether. I know that doesn't sound like much, but it's only going to be a hallway. We're not making a complete level. We're just making a short hallway, maybe 25 to 35 feet, and then we're going to create a doorway. Okay, that's the whole idea with the hallway. Right? One end is going to be open, and when we get all done, we'll be able to render it out. Okay, so we're going to do sections of 8 feet. Okay, so so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and start breaking this up, and then we're going to start figuring out how we're going to put things together. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hold down the shift key, right mouse button, go to insert edge loop, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to do about 2 feet in. Each one of these squares equals 1 foot. Okay, and I'm going to cut there, and I'm going to make a cut somewhere around here and somewhere around here, and then maybe a cut up here. Again, we're going to make, they're going to be a lot more precise here in just a little bit. Alright, so there's a lot of cool things you can do, and this is just, again, this is just one way of getting started. I hate straight walls, even though if you were to cover that up with pipes and stuff, I want it to be more sci-fi. So what we're going to do on here, just to kind of make things look a little more interesting, is that because we want some different angles, it'd be a lot more fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is before we do anything else, we need to go in here and set our scene up. So go to project window, and I've already got mine set up, but I want you to click on new. Okay, and then make sure you tell it where you would like it to go to, and maybe you've already have this set up and you just need to change the project name. So your first underscore last name underscore module underscore 5, and then you click accept, and it'll make all these file folders for you, and make sure you tell it where to go. Okay, after you click on new. Alright, and once you do that, I've already got it done, so you just click on accept and you should be good to go. And what I want to do before we go any further is go ahead and go to File, Save Scene As, and you can see I've already got some saved, and just call it Module Interior. Make sure you put your first name in there, Module Interior 01, and save in a sequence. Okay? Alright, great. Okay, so now we just go ahead, hit the Q key, and go to vertex mode. We're going to select these guys right here in the very corner, and you can see that we've got this going up and then out a little bit, and so we're just going to go ahead and keep that grid snap on, hit the W key, move that up, and just kind of slide it over and just move that over just a little bit. I don't really like how this looks, it's going too far, so I'm going to go ahead and select both of these guys right here, all of those, and move those back a little bit so we get something that looks like that. Again, you can see that slides up just a little bit more, so let's go ahead and slide that up just a smidgen more. Again, just kind of play with it. And if you don't like it snapping, that actually looks pretty close to that. Let's kind of turn it to the side. That looks pretty good. Not too bad. Okay. And we'll do that. I like the snapping function on it. It really does help. And we've got the same kind of thing happening up here. Okay. From what I can see in the drawing. That's a drawing, by the way. That's not a rendering. I mean, like a 3D rendering. It's really well done. So move that up, and this looks like a piece that's separate, like a modular piece that's separate, so I'm not going to model that in there. We can add that later. Alright, so let's get back into our model and do the same kind of thing that's going on with this one as well, which means we're going to go ahead and go down a little bit like that and move it out a little bit. Again, not too far. And let's make this a little bit different from the bottom. Just kind of give it a little more interest. Okay. And let's see here. We could probably bring this up a little bit more, maybe. Looks like we're off a little bit. Let's go to the side view. Nope, we're on there. We're on there pretty good. Let's make this a little bit different. Let's bring this down a little bit more, maybe. Just kind of make it a little bit different. A little bit more up on. Okay, so I think we need to add another edge loop here, because this goes up at a slant Let's go back down again. And just select these guys right here and move those up a little bit. There we go, like that. Okay. And again, I want to make this a little bit different. So I'm going to add an edge loop up here. Just randomly, I'm just going to randomly put that in right here and right here. There we go. And I'm going to put another edge right here next to it, another edge right here next to this one. And I'm just trying to make the top a little bit different. So I'm going to click on the face and just hit the W key and move that up. We're going to have a little channel in there as a cool little where light will come down, maybe. I'm going to turn grid snap. Well, I'm going to keep it on because grid snap does help keep things in line. But I kind of, yeah, let me turn that off. I'm not really super happy. I just want a little bit, I want to be able to see that detail in there. There we go. From a certain angle. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. So now we've got what looks like, let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go turn off the R, and I can't click on it. Let's go to Windows, Outliner, and I'm going to go to Image Plane, and that always highlights. And I'm going to make this quite a bit bigger so we can have something a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that's basically the structure now that I have. Again, you can see that mine is trying to soften those edges, and I don't want that to happen. So we've got to keep it harsh edges. So go back to edge mode and just get that turned off, just like harden the edge. There we go. So we want those hard edges. We really do. There we go. Just adds so much more. Okay. So far so good, and you can see that that's not hard to do, really. Okay. The hard part comes when you're actually adding all that really cool detail that you need to create the end effect. Okay. We're just creating these little pieces here for that object. So now, the easy way, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do these pillars, and I think those are really great because that really breaks up the room, makes things a lot more interesting. So we're going to go ahead and create those pillars now. And what I'm going to do is continually look at what I have here so far as the width that we have, and this is still 8 units by 8 units. And we want to keep that grid system up throughout the whole entire process of creating these pieces. You can make the pieces smaller, but you have to be super careful. So the next thing I do is go ahead and save your work, and however you want to save it. I'm going to do something a little different so I know, because this kind of tells me I'm on a different save here. There you go. And what we're going to do is I'm going to have you hold the D key. D as in David, and then V as in Victor. So the D and the V key. And then I want you to move it down. Okay. And the D and the V again, and then move it to the corner. So I'm holding the D as in dog or David, and then V as in Victor at the same time, and then I'm moving this around. I click on the center of it, so move around so you can see the center. D as in David and V as in Victor, and that allows you to snap to your points. Let's get that snap to that bottom left hand corner. That's really important. Okay, so we're going to duplicate this, but first you can see that I've got quite a bunch of history going on here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete my type history. And I'm going to freeze transformations. Let's get all that cleaned up. And I'm just going to turn this off right now, or I can turn this on. Let's go ahead and double click on this, and let's retype it. Let's say this is hallway 01. Okay. And then we're going to do Control D. We're going to duplicate it. Make sure you move it after you do that. And I need to have snap on again for this to work properly. Make sure snap is on. You have to turn it off here and there, but make sure you get it back on again. All right, so from the top view, this is going to be, and we want to keep it snapping properly, so it's going to work properly when we actually want to use it. So I'm going to right click over, go to vertex, click on these vertices over here, and just move them over so it's 2 feet wide, so it's 2 units wide. Okay, this is our next piece. Once we get one piece, then we're good to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it again, move that over, duplicate this again, go into object mode, Control D, move it over. Let's get this guy out of the way a minute. Here we go. Okay. Alright, so then we're going to right click over this and go to vertex and click on that and move that in, so we have 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're dividing it in 2s. Okay? So we have one that's 8, one that's 4. Let's bring that over to the side here so we can get it closer together. So 8 across, 4 across, and 2 across. Okay? And then if you need one maybe that has some detail in it, we'll do 1. So it's divided by 2, and that will create just one that is. Let's go ahead and go to vertex mode and move that in. There we go. So these are our sections now. Pretty simple. And basically that's how you start the whole process when creating these objects. So if you do add more detail to the floor, then you're probably going to not want to duplicate these over. So what I'm going to do is, if there's more detail that I'm going to put into this, and I want to add that detail to all these these smaller pieces, then I would probably want to duplicate that after I do that detail. Okay. Alright, so the next thing you want to do is figure out, okay, how do you want to break this up? Okay, so that's another thing that you need to have planned, and normally I would tell students that when you are actually creating modular pieces, you would have to go in here and select the face, and you would have to extract it. Okay, so edit mesh extract, and you would have to extract that piece. Okay, you want to keep them together still. Okay, so the whole idea is that then I can take this piece and just detail the heck out of that piece, and then I can take this piece here, and we're gonna have to separate this from the ceiling. So now I would have this piece, go to face mode, and I would select this piece right here and shift select all the other pieces that go into this piece right here, and you would go ahead and extract that as well. So go in there and edit mesh and extract. There we go. So now we've got the pieces that we need to create our scene. Okay, alright. So, and you can even go further than that. So once you get those 3 pieces, let's go back into object mode so you can easily select those. And I would always save your work before you start moving on to extracting. Like, I didn't do that yet, so you need to probably do that. So I'm going to go Control C back and just make sure that before we go any further that I make sure I save my work, and make sure you save it in a sequence. It's very important. There we go. Right, so once I save, go back in here and make those changes. I'll go ahead and pause. Alright, so I'll go ahead and extract those. Alright, so extract that piece there, and go back up here to the top, and go into face mode and select these guys right here. And then I'm going to deselect anything up here. There we go. And that should just select those pieces there. Oh gosh, don't want to do all of them, but I suppose I could. I'm not going to do all of them right now. Here we go. Alright. Okay. For some reason that didn't take. Alright, let's go back into object mode. Didn't like it. Me just deselecting those other faces. So I'm going to go ahead and select these faces by themselves again. Sometimes that happens. I don't know why. Here we go. And that one actually worked. Okay. So that part is finished. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do that for the rest of the panels. So I'll be back once I get these all extracted the way I did this one. And we'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back and I've got everything extracted. So just to show you, got the floor pieces all extracted, we've got the wall pieces all extracted, and we've got the top pieces all extracted. Okay, so once you have those finished, then I want you to save your work again. Make sure you continually save as much as you possibly can. It's always better to save too much than not enough, and you can get back to an earlier save if you really mess up. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to select everything so far that I have, and I'm going to go to delete by type history and freeze transformations, and I need to now make sure all the pivot points are at the corners. Okay, always do the bottom left hand corner. Okay, alright, so they snap properly. Alright, so these are going to be the floor panels. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're going to have a lot more panels. We're going to probably have, maybe 24 pieces when we're all finished right now, because we're cutting everything up. Okay, so with that, I do need to make the end hallway. We need to start thinking about the doorway at the very end before we go any farther with this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to select this piece and this piece, right? And I'm going to duplicate it, Control D, and then move it over to the side. Okay. And what I'm going to do is do a real quick weld so we can get this looking good. I'll show you what I'm going to do next just in a little bit here. We could just use a back plane on this, since we know the, just the plane and then add the door to it. You could do that, but that's kind of sloppy. It doesn't really fit very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this. I'm going to combine it. Okay. And take these edges on the corners right here. Okay. Like that. And we need to do, we're going to have a problem with this guy right here, so we're going to do this one. Okay. We're going to skip this one right here, because we really don't need that. That's perfectly flat anyway, so this will work out just fine. And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and do a Control E. Okay. And we're not going to use this. I suppose we could use that, but that just isn't going to work very well. It works okay for that part. So what I'm going to do is Control Z back, and I'm just going to hit the W key and then move that across like that. Okay. Alright, so that gives us this look for a door. This is going to be a throwaway, so don't worry, this is going to be a throwaway card. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all the pieces I don't need anymore. So I'm going to select all these guys right here and delete it. There we go, like that. Now we are going to see some weird issues here, okay, which is fine. But let's go in here with the vertex, and let's go ahead and weld that. Let's see what we got here. What is that? That's that one little part right there, isn't it? Kind of angled up. And it doesn't go anywhere, right? That's not going to really work for us. So what I can do is I'm going to go into selection mode and go into multi-cut, and let's go ahead and cut, if we can find that edge there. It looks like it's just by itself, right? So let's do this. Let's cut right here. Whoops. This thing's acting crazy. There we go, right there. And hold the, yeah. Try to get it below it if you can. And just go across, and let's make that edge all the way around here. Like that. That doesn't look good. That's not right. Let's go back, hit the back button, and I'm going to click on the edge and make sure I get this right. There we go. And then hit enter and make sure that looks okay. There we go. And then we're going to hit the Q key. Okay, get out of the tool. And we're going to go ahead and try this again. Go into selection mode, and let's go in here to multi-cut. And click on that, snap it. Click on this one and snap it. It should snap. I don't know why it's not snapping. Oh, I think I know why. Let's go ahead and Q back, Control Z back. There we go. Let's find out what's going on with that vertex. Let's move it up. Okay, so it's having a hard time with that because there's nothing attached to it. This is kind of off in space here. So I'm going to click off the grid snap and find out what's happening here. Yeah, it's not even connected. So it's got nothing to connect to. So let's go ahead and move that up a little bit, and let's go ahead and go to selection, and let's go back into multi-cut, and you can see that there's nothing to cut. So I'm going to go up to the top, kind of get where it should be, and then go to the bottom here and then hit enter, and then that should work just fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and weld that. Go to selection mode, hit the Q key because you're still in that tool, and I'm going to go into, hold down the shift and my right mouse button and go to target weld. Click on the object and target weld these two pieces together. And there is our door. Okay, we're going to have at the end, and it's going to perfectly fit where it needs to fit. So that looks really good. Hit the Q key again. We're in a, and if you can tweak, if you want to tweak that out, you sure can. Okay, and so we got our hallway, and we got half of our door, and we'll finish that door up in just a little bit, but at least we have our pieces ready to go to complete our hallway. Okay, and that's going to be it for this video, and I'll see you in part 2.